Welcome to this wee art haul. My name is Anna Vien and I'm an unprofessional artist and art supply hoarder. Quick disclaimer, I won't be showcasing and testing all the art supplies in this video. Instead, I'll split the tests across multiple videos. The first goodie I got is the Tombow monograph in 0.3 for €16.90 with some 2H lead, which is harder but won't smudge and is easy to erase. I couldn't leave my hands off this Kuretake Inktober set and had my eye on it since Closeups used some of the supplies in her videos. I paid €16.54 for this set. The Kuretake fooded pen Nihon Date Kabura has a double-sided hard soft brush tip for lettering, outlining and inking illustration. It contains water-based dye and will smudge when reactivated with water-based media. The Zig Clean Color Real Brush Pen in light gray has a single-sided bristle tip, which is very flexible and allows for thick to thin lines. The Zig Cartoonist Manga Flexible Fine Pen has a hard brush tip that's flexible enough to produce various strokes. It contains water-based pigment and didn't smudge when reactivated with water. The Kuretake fooded pen Kobori Juchi contains water-based pigment and comes with a medium-sized brush, which produces thick and thin lines. It can also be used to produce interesting textures. It didn't smudge when I went over it with water-based media. By the way, all the black pigments in this pack tend to smudge or get picked up when used with alcohol markers. So if you plan on using them with alcohol markers, I recommend doing the line art last. The Zig Memory System Wink of Stella brush is a brush pen with a bristle tip that contains fabulous glitter ink. It literally turns you into a fairy godmother. Because of my little oopsie with the glitter ink, it kind of bled through the paper in some sort of greasy way. The other inks performed well overall in the art creation sketchbook. However, in the Leuchtturm sketchbook, they showed slight shadowing through the paper. The Canson Graduate Manga Sketchbook is available in A4 and A5 sizes, featuring smooth white 200 GSM paper and 80 pages. I bought it for €13.11 and it lays completely flat. The Canson Graduate Watercolour pad also comes in various sizes as well as a sketchbook. It is a white cellulose paper, 250 GSM and has a rougher texture to it. I bought it for €4.39 and I'll be testing this paper more in depth in this video. I will also be testing the Canson Graduate Mixed Media Sketchbook in A4 featuring 200 GSM smooth white paper and 72 pages. It lays flat and includes a pocket in the back. It also costs €13.11. This is one of the Ohuhu refill inks for their alcohol markers. I paid €4.99 for it. The Boesner Aquarelle 300 watercolor paper is a mix of cellulose and cotton and is sold in various sizes and textures, matte and rough. Last but not least, I picked up another Hahnemühle bamboo mixed media pad in 30 by 40 centimeters, as it was a bargain at my local art shop for only €24. I will show you how it performs later in this video. I'll start my tests with the Canson Graduate Mixed Media Sketchbook and the watercolor pad. I'll be testing various media that are relevant to my process on all three papers to demonstrate the performance and create some simple illustrations on them as well. The first thing I noticed is that the mixed media paper stayed went longer, which allowed the ink to flow and spread more than on the watercolor pad. On the other hand, the watercolors turned out smoother on the watercolor paper. you're familiar with Ecoline brush pens or any water-based markers, you're aware that they tend to cause pilling on the paper if you apply more than one layer at once. With both papers, I noticed a slight pilling around the third layer, but it dried smoothly afterwards. The alcohol markers, Tombow ABT Pro in this case, worked fine on both papers and dried evenly. The Brown Seal Holland fineliner brush pens, which are essentially water-filled tip pens and fine liners, work just fine too. No paper pilling. The Loop acrylic marker worked fine enough, but perhaps mine is a little dry. It didn't pill the paper whatsoever. Applying heavy layers of graphite and erasing them seems no problem at all for both papers. I tend to vigorously sketch and erase, so that was a super important test. I didn't enjoy the texture of the watercolor paper when I applied the colored pencil. I always prefer smooth papers to apply seamless blends. I often seem to value textures in others' art, but have no clue how to apply that to mine. Here's a quick close-up of the swatches on both papers. I think all materials work good so far. The backsides were okay, only the alcohol markers made it through on the other side, and the darker shades caused a bit of shadowing. That's quite normal in my experience. Let's try them out with little test illustrations, just to get a feel on how they perform under quote-unquote realistic conditions. Starting with the watercolor pad, I haven't drawn in a week or two, so I'm slowly easing into it with a small and simple portrait of a random feminine face. I applied some student-grade watercolors as base colors and came in with various media, like the acrylic brush pen and adding acrylic marker and colored pencils. In the end, the colored pencils aren't too noticeable since they're applied lightly as well as a bit tone in tone with the watercolor base. Onto the mixed media sketchbook, I wanted to redraw a nameless OC of mine. I guess she embodies my love for turquoise, frilly made dresses, and scowling faces. This time I've started with the Jacques Herbal watercolor inks that really mesmerized me in the swatch test earlier. I tried to create a gradient between two blue shades, but it didn't really work. I discovered too late that they are easily reactivated when re-wetted, which I wasn't aware of before. Oops. Though it became pretty apparent to me when I tried to correct areas with white gouache, acrylic markers and white ink. All the other media used performed as expected. The alcohol markers blended nicely without feathering, with a normal amount of bleeding through the paper. Using colored pencils was very easy. The paper has a very fine tooth, allowing for building up multiple layers without the texture becoming apparent to the eye. I really enjoyed working with this paper. The Hahnemühle bamboo mixed media paper handled the wet media very well in my opinion. Only a few wet media in blue hues got some kind of texture, like sparkles, that you'll see better in a moment. Made from 90% cotton fiber and 10% cotton rag, it's advertised as suitable for drawing and painting techniques such as watercolor, acrylics, pastels, and mixed media techniques. It also coped well with the Ecoline brush pens. Although it may appear to have pilled the paper initially, it will dry smoothly, suggesting that these are likely just some fibers that will flatten themselves out again. The only thing that worried me a bit was the tooth of the paper when it came to colored pencils, but I suppose it's a lovely base for those who need to build up layers upon layers of colored pencil. Here's a spontaneous redraw of a small piece from my sketchbook, originally created 2 years ago. She's a character design I crafted for a writer friend, which significantly influenced my creative preferences. Revisiting an old acquaintance is always enjoyable. Sketching on this paper was easy. It had no problem whatsoever handling my furious sketching and erasing.
Anywhere you go, you belong. Anywhere you say, anywhere.
To summarize the tests, I can say that the Hahnemühle bamboo mixed media paper performed really well with wet media, although it hated my indigo watercolor. That, or I don't know my indigo very well. I like the way the inks and watercolors dried on it, with and without texture. Both look lovely in my opinion. The water-based markers also performed well on this paper. On the downside, I'm not fond of how the colored pencils and alcohol markers performed on this paper. The colored pencils didn't blend well with the rest of my illustration due to the paper's tooth. Additionally, alcohol markers appear much darker on this paper, although they do dry smoothly. Given the price and the absence of a sketchbook version, I prefer using this paper for illustrations with wet media in the future. The watercolor pad performed exceptionally well, perhaps even better than the Canson mixed media paper. It's reasonably priced and wet media dries smoothly on it. While wet media don't flow as much, this offers more control over your watercolors and inks. However, I personally dislike the texture, and if I had known about it beforehand, I wouldn't have purchased it. But texture preferences are subjective. This paper might be perfect for you. Regarding the Canson mixed media paper, I appreciate that it's available in sketchbook form. With white, smooth paper that handles both wet and dry media quite well, except for watercolors, which dried somewhat patchy compared to the other papers. However, given its price, I believe it's something I can overlook. If you've got any more questions regarding those papers, let me know in the comments and I'll try to get back at you ASAP. If you enjoyed these tests, then stay tuned for another video I've got coming up where I'm testing out the Boesner aquarelle paper and will be illustrating Kiki as Punk with watercolors and colored pencils. I can't make any promises when it will be up though, since I'm at the end of my pregnancy and my life is about to fall into beautiful chaos. So make sure to like, subscribe and activate the bell if you don't want to miss out on my next video. Until then, stay creative. Bye bye.